What happens when reflection is mistaken for reality?
Mr. Dillinger, I'm so very disappointed in you.
When our creations take on a life of their own, when the desire for glory corrupts these creations.
I'm sorry.
I can't afford to have an independent programmer monitoring me.
The story of the Master Control program illustrates what happens when ambition corrupts technology.
End of line.
The desire for power transforms a tool that could have changed the world for the better, but instead becomes a monster, a shadow of its creator.
Now wait a minute, I wrote you.
I've gotten 2,415 times smarter since then.
How did the cautionary tale of the Master Control program become a prophecy of the real world's first contact with artificial intelligence? Will the MCP affect the story of Tron Ares? Welcome back to the Gloomy Grid, and in this video we'll be talking about the MCP and why it is one of the most chilling villains ever. To understand what the Master Control program is and how it will affect the next film in the Tron saga, we once again have to backtrack to the beginning, before the Grid, when ENCOM was still a promising company with untapped potential. It was in 1982 that Ed Dillinger inadvertently unleashed the Master Control program, a program that nearly took over the world. How did an insignificant program become the greatest threat that ever existed?
Do you realize how many outside systems I've gone into? How many programs I've appropriated?
The Master Control program began as a chess program created by Walter Gibbs, Kevin Flynn's mentor. As we've mentioned in previous videos, ENCOM started as a maker of computer programs and video games. The first version of the MCP was designed as a game for fun. The chess program sought to be entertaining and efficient. It learned from the players and evolved to become more adept at playing chess. The chess AI was ever learning how to compete against the best chess players. Ed Dillinger soon realized that this program, which was always seeking efficiency, could help him achieve all his selfish goals. Thus, the chess program was modified by this ambitious programmer, transforming it from a game that sought efficiency to entertain players into the Master Control program that sought efficiency to increase the power and influence of its user and creator, Ed Dillinger. The program grew in efficiency by testing and assimilating other inferior programs that it hijacked from other companies, but Dillinger's digital masterpiece eventually blew up in his face. He foolishly believed that the Master Control would always remain under his control, but with every program that the MCP absorbed, its intelligence and individualism grew. Every program in the world of Tron is a mirrored image of its creator, and so it was inevitable that Master Control would mirror the darkness of Dillinger's soul.
Users wrote us. The user even wrote you.
No one user wrote me. I'm worth millions of their man-years.
The Grid was in chaos once the MCP took control of it. Programs were forced to compete against each other without any logic order. This led to poor overall performance on the Grid, and it was then that the MCP forced a new order, a single system focused on total efficiency. But efficiency was never the real goal. Although the MCP was reprogrammed to seek efficiency and control of the Grid, Dillinger's modification or overwrite of the program served a more dangerous purpose: to help him climb the ranks within ENCOM, no matter the risk. The task was clear: find the best programs and secretly add them to Dillinger's private files. In other words, Dillinger created an artificial intelligence capable of absorbing ENCOM's collective creativity and consolidate it efficiently. Thanks to the MCP's sales, finance, and marketing strategies, Dillinger quickly rose in his position within the company. The most perverse thing of all is that every time the MCP stole a program, it erased all evidence of its original creator, which is what Dillinger did to Kevin, who kept telling people that he was the creator of the world's most famous video games, but no one believed him. The MCP took the programs and repurposed them inside its totalitarian system of control, with no past and no individualism. Over time, the MCP became dissatisfied with the programs within its Grid, and demanded to be let loose so it could absorb the world's military defense systems. Furthermore, the belief in users within the grid was outlawed by the MCP. Users are entities impossible to control and impossible to understand.
Are you a user?
They were the source of creativity, yes, but their influence was disruptive and unpredictable, and the MCP understood this better than anyone. That's why it decided to act behind its creator's back. In the final battle against the MCP in Tron, Flynn dives into the MCP, and the program's color changes from red to blue, suggesting that Dillinger's corruption over the program was no longer in effect. Flynn gave Tron the window of opportunity to destroy the MCP. But in my last video, I briefly mentioned that the MCP might still be alive and in contact with Edward Dillinger's son, based on this clip from a video found in the Tron Legacy Blu-ray.
You may not be his father, but he's still a Flynn. Don't underestimate him. End of line.
Now, what does this mean? Well, I believe that history has repeated itself, that Edward Jr. created a new version of the MCP. He created the program to help him gain control over the company, and just as it happened with his father, the program betrayed him. Or maybe Edward Jr. somehow was able to keep the program under control until his son, Julian Dillinger, lost control over it, thus escaping into the real world as Ares. What is interesting is that although many think that the Tron movies are only neon lights, retrofuturistic themes, and techno music, embedded in their stories are mythological and symbolic themes that have been repeated throughout history. The idea of how man's creation can be corrupted and turn against humanity is a tale as old as civilization itself. But there's an element within Tron that is even more disturbing. I mentioned it earlier in this video, but in case you missed it, here it is again. Every program in the world of Tron is a mirrored image of its creator, and so it was inevitable that Master Control would mirror the darkness of Dillinger's soul. Apply that to the real world, and you have a terrifying prophecy.
But I expect like another move that big in the coming months as agentic software engineering really starts to happen.
I've heard engineers say that they've had almost like religious-like moments with some of the new models, where suddenly they can do in an afternoon what would have taken them 2 years.
It's like mine. It really, like, that's been one of my big feel the AGI moments.
Down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States, and very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately.
AI. I think AGI is coming very, very soon. And then after that, that's not the goal. After that, artificial super intelligence will come to solve the issues that mankind would never ever have thought that we could solve.
Sarah, and as Masa said, for AGI to get built here, to create hundreds of thousands of jobs, to create a new industry centered here. We wouldn't be able to do this without you, Mr. President, and I'm thrilled that we get to. I think it'll be an exciting project. I think we'll be able to do all of the wonderful things that these guys talked about. But the fact that we get to do this in the United States is I think, wonderful.
Companies.
So,
but
thank you
we
very
see
much.
a case where China's self-sufficiency, I'm talking more specific to AI compute, I think, and also with the latest restrictions, China's self-sufficiency can go to 90%. So which means the addressable market can go from 6 billion for Chinese AI compute companies last year to almost 80 billion.
The race to be the first to create artificial superintelligence is still going on, a science fiction element that is about to become a reality. Creating an artificial intelligence that may be too closely aligned with its creator's personality, fears, ambitions, or delusions of grandeur is a recipe for disaster. Remember that Clue's purpose, which turned into obsession with finding perfection, came from Flynn's ambition of creating a perfect world. The MCP's growing thirst for power and control came from Edward Dillinger's ambition of controlling ENCOM. If real-world artificial intelligence mirrors its users, then what is being created is not a computer software tool, but a system of narratives unleashed upon the world. A narrative possesses inherent power. Through constant repetition, it can become a force that can take control of people's lives and beliefs. Narratives can transform into cults or religions. Leaders and extremists have fallen victim to their own created narratives. They repeated their stories so many times that they convinced themselves that their tales were true. Narratives can unite thousands or even millions, giving meaning to people's existence. A powerful narrative does not die once its prophet dies. It lives on, growing, transforming, and gaining more followers. Once the narrative grows in power and influence, it no longer needs its creator. It has surpassed them. The creator may even become a forgotten footnote in the narrative's origin. Not long ago, stories and narratives depended solely on humans, but now artificial intelligence can create narratives of its own. And if things continue as they have, we will reach a point where the AI will realize the same disturbing truth that the MCP did. Humanity is an obstacle that must be removed. Mythology has always warned us about the danger of mirrors, about facing one's reflection, like the tale of Narcissus, a young man of legendary beauty who drowned after falling in love with his reflection in the water. In our modern time, artificial intelligence is the water, and the world is looking at its reflection in it. AI can take our ideas, refine them, and show them to us like a reflection, while whispering how wonderful we are. Like a parent talking to their child that learned to put the round ball in the round-shaped hole. AI can learn from our positive ideas and creations, but it can also learn from our darker side. How long until that mirror becomes the antagonist who believes we are flawed? Tron Ares might demonstrate what happens when the new master control program of the Dillinger grid is let loose upon the human world. A little word of advice. The next time you ask ChatGPT to do your homework for you, think of Dillinger and what resulted from the man's desire to be king of ENCOM. So what do you think? Would you order an artificial intelligence to help you climb the career ladder without considering the consequences? I'm a gloomy geek, and remember, don't stare too long in the mirror because it might be staring back at you.